In past videos, I've been looking at how you could go back to more primitive societies, which is much more common in role-playing games, even if they're set in the modern world, like the vampire is basically a local tribal thing within a city. So is the werewolf, and how you can play with the old sort of stuff, the old conventions and cultures and ways of organizing that existed in the past but no longer do because of our centralized information-rich societies. But what I've noticed is that actually a lot of these instincts are still within us, and if we can bring them out in our players and their characters indirectly, this could be, well, a really great achievement and a really great experience. Now, what happened for me was particularly the experience of raiding versus displaying in a LARP, a live action role-playing. And there, despite sort of self-image of, well, I don't know, heroic character or willing to die, I mean, it's only just a character. You had the same dynamic when the armies confronted each other, the sort of back and forth, the unwillingness to just jump into the foam blades of the opponents. And I found this fascinating. The instinct is still there. It's very strong. We haven't evolved much away from it. So what this means is that the ways of associating with people in tribal societies is probably quite a natural one for humans even today. And if the GM can set up the situation so that it brings out these old-fashioned type of relations, then the players might be able to just slip into them without being prodded, without being pushed into it. Like as long as you keep it all consistent. Like in my displaying video, I suggested have the characters go to war with much higher level characters on each side, and they don't rush into the fight. Well, then the characters, they probably take their cue from the other ones. They're not going to rock the boat. They're not going to risk anything as long as the other ones aren't risking anything. And maybe even if they level up until they're comparable, or maybe even a bit higher than the other combatants, the old lessons will stay with them, maybe. And similarly, about other human beings being reliable or not reliable, or rumors happening. Just let that naturally happen. Let, say, your players not respond with violence to an insult and have all their friends look down at them and disassociate themselves from them, or back off a bit, or lose respect for them. And they'll probably pretty quickly learn from that. Or similarly have them respond with excessive violence or violate some cultural taboos. And again, they put aside, they'll be sort of semi-ostracized. So this is a more social interaction, but you can have lots of things about, okay, you can have puzzles like who do you trust, this person or that person? And often they're sort of a bit too mechanical. There's a clue that this person is a hideous betrayer and that one is honest, and then you solve one or the other. But what about if there's just, it's not certain that either one is one or the other, or that it might depend on circumstances? And maybe one of them is culturally quite close to the players, so maybe they're more likely to be reliable, and you can, but maybe the other one has a bit of a reputation to maintain. So you can sort of play with that, and maybe they make the right choice, maybe they make the wrong choice. Maybe there's a partial betrayal, someone comes and apologizes after it or laughs it off. And how do they deal with situations like that? As I say, the old instincts are inside us, and if the GM can create a world which is in a certain sense unreliable by our modern standards, where there is no centralized dispenser of justice and no reliable or even semi-reliable or even laughably unreliable single source of information. And as I say, in the LARP, the instincts were physically there. Might not be quite so easy to get it out in a non-LARP situation, but I think you can. As I said, the GM has to do a lot of work to understand how these cultures work and why they work and why characters react, NPCs react this way or that way. But if they can do it, it might set it up very well for the players, and the players will do the old instincts and will, to their surprise, say, I understand why I'm doing this. Yeah, I see. This is hideous if I was to do it nowadays, but yeah, it kind of makes sense here. Anyway, that's a suggestion, and thanks for listening.